let's talk about competition. As more and more games are released, we're seeing an increasing trend of games drifting more towards designs that incentivize competition between players. In other words, there's a lot more games nowadays that are being released with the goal of becoming an esport. Several of the most popular games in the world right now are entirely competitively focused, and because of this, these games have an in-depth ranked system that the players can test their skills in. But with more games that begin to focus on the competitive aspect of gaming, the bigger and bigger a problem in these communities become. I'm of course talking about ranked anxiety. Ranked anxiety is a form of anxiety that comes directly because of the ranked system in video games. It can manifest in many different ways, however the most common way it manifests is through the fear of losing one's rank because of the losses that they suffer. It can also be a feeling of not belonging at your rank, or feeling that you'll never get to a good rank and beating yourself up about it. Ranked anxiety normally affects people who don't play ranked modes commonly, or if someone reaches a much higher rank than they're usually used to having. The feeling can come from the fear of the unknown, as you're not used to playing in these kinds of environments, or the fear of the great lengths that you have to go in order to get good. Sometimes playing these ranked modes can feel like you're at the base of the mountain, and the goal that you want to get to is right at the top, and the journey looks extremely perilous. The people who generally feel this feeling the most are actually people who don't play ranked that often, as they're not used to confronting the feeling when compared to other people. That doesn't mean that people who compete a lot don't feel some level of ranked anxiety. Speaking personally, I compete in high-level Guilty Gear Strive tournaments on a basically weekly basis, and I still feel ranked anxiety heavy at most tournaments. The latest tournament that I played on a Monday, I was feeling extremely anxious before playing, but I still managed to find techniques and ways to help me get through my anxiety and compete as well as I could. So, what did I do? Well, I want to share some of the tips that helped me get over my ranked anxiety and push past it, so hopefully people struggling with similar things can use some of these methods. Now, I should say that not all of these are going to work for everyone, and it's generally a good idea that you try to find something that specifically helps you. Imagine these as ideas and suggestions that you can take and then morph into your own technique. The first one that generally helps me is just having something else to focus my attention on while playing. Now, when I say that, I don't mean having 12 tabs open on your second monitor, all playing different YouTube videos of Family Guy funny moments and shitty mobile game ads, because that isn't going to get rid of your anxiety, it's just going to rot your brain with Family Guy memes. Trust me, I know, I'm depressed too. I mean having something that interacts with a different part of your body, so you have something to release your energy on. For example, you could chew a bit of gum, or have a fidget toy that you play with during downtime. What I specifically like to do is have some really strong ginger beer next to me, because it always gives me a kick when I drink it, and leaves a nice lasting aftertaste that I can use to distract myself from the fact that I got to play against one of the best mates in the world. Maybe I should take another sip. It's also important to break up the action as much as you can and relish in the breaks that you get. Now, obviously, this will be different depending on what games that you play. For something like a MOBA, you'll want to physically take breaks between the full games, but with something like a Battle Royale where downtime is built into the game itself, learning to take this time in the game to relax better and mentally shut down a little bit will help you improve. However, make sure that you still have your wits about you, because you don't want to fall into a trap. Now, of course, my personal experience is in fighting games. If you don't know, fighting games are generally played in sets of best of 3 or best of 5 games. It's generally considered bad manners to take a long time between the matches in the sets, so you generally end up playing these games in very quick succession, back to back to back, so they can be pretty high intensity. For me, during ranked sessions, I normally take about a 5 to 10 minute break every hour or so, just to make sure that I don't stress myself out too much. And in tournaments, I try and take a breather after every set is complete, just so that I can process what happened and let my feelings out. Now, there is a good chance that this method will actually backfire and increase your anxiety and stress, as it can get you in your own head. It very much can be a person-by-person thing. If it works for you, then hell yeah, but if you need to keep up the intensity to distract yourself, then that's good for you. However, combining this with the next one always helps me out a bunch. Humans, by their very nature, are social creatures. Even the most introverted person who locks themselves in their room, reads 10 volumes of manga, and plays Stardew Valley till their hands bleed need to talk to someone about something every once in a while. If you're doing something that's competitively focused as well, you generally have intense emotions build up rapidly, and you'll need some way to let them out. The best way that I've found to deal with this, personally, is to have someone else there to help you along your journey. Now, in games where you can play with teammates, this generally involves queuing as a group so that you can all play together and distribute the salt and rage evenly. However, in 1v1 games, it could just be nice having an outside observer around to talk and communicate with you while you're competing. The way that I personally do this is I stream my tournament runs and sometimes my rank sessions over on my Twitch, twitch.tv/GekkoSquirrel_live. Just having chat there being absolute dumbasses while I try my heart out for hitting a high placement helps with the anxiety that I feel. I'm also streaming right now if you want to come hang out. However, the easiest way to do this is just to play while you're in a Discord call with your friends. You're not stepping on anyone's toes, hopefully, and you can have conversations related or unrelated to the game to lighten the mood and share the raw emotions with. If you also have someone to talk through everything that's happening, it can take the pressure off a bit. Just know when to shut up because you could be killing the vibe. And that's probably the main thing. If it's with a group of friends, it's generally better to rant about the games just because there's more people to listen, and you don't want to be making a Discord kit and you have nervous because you're having to deal with fucking happy chaos. Double so if someone's physically in your space. But there is a solution that beats all of these, and thankfully, it doesn't require any friends, unique techniques, or external resources to do. Listen, sometimes no matter how much you want to do something, the pressure of competing and stress of all of it will be too much for even the most solid mental havers to handle. If you feel like you can't do it and it's becoming too much, then just stop playing. Trust me, at the end of the day, these are just video games, and games first and foremost are made to be entertaining. Even if you've got the desire to be the best and surpass everyone else in the game, you can't do that if you're spending more time fighting against the anxiety that you feel rather than fighting against your opponents. I know how hard it can be to push yourself to play these games sometimes. Rank modes and competitive-driven communities can be extremely daunting to try and enter, especially if you're new. While we're growing up, we're told that succeeding and doing well should be the norm, but failure is something that should be avoided at all costs. From our education system to the way that we acquire jobs to the media that we enjoy, in basically all of these aspects, failure is demonized. Failure is something that you should be ashamed of. Failure at a simple task means that you yourself are a failure. And this mentality worked its way into video games really easily. Of course, it can be overwhelming and terrifying to deal with. When I first started playing Guilty Gear Strive and got to Celestial rank for the first time, I cannot express how nervous I was. Everything in my body was shaking. I could feel my temperature rising. I couldn't properly focus or concentrate on the match, and after every round, I felt exhausted. And that was completely normal because I was stressing myself out about it. The challenge was, and still is, extremely difficult if you're not used to competing, and the fear of maybe I don't actually deserve to be at this rank haunts players a lot of the time. Hell, I know it still affects me a bunch even after I haven't played the game for a while. But it's learning to push past that fear and anxiety that we are able to grow as people and competitors. If we push ourselves as much as possible, push the fear of failure deep down into a pit and find ways to move forward past it, we truly begin to shine as individuals. Here's the secret to ranked anxiety. It never gets better. If you feel it now, you'll feel it in the years to come, no matter what you do. But just because it doesn't get easier to deal with doesn't mean that you don't get better at dealing with it. As you grow as a person and learn to challenge yourself more, you'll get better at pushing past that initial barrier and learning to play the game that you love. By gaining the courage to push past your fears and play the games, you'll begin to do things in your favorite games that you never thought possible, and amaze yourself with the things that you can achieve. And, eventually, with enough hard work, you can even climb the mountains that you thought were unscalable. As always, a very special thanks to 64 MHz, Brudikai, Daniel Wiederit, Games.png, Lady Dantalon, Melodically Me, Monact, Nhoa, Proxy, Smeech, Super, and Tom Tanks for being Tier 2 patron supporters.